Hi everyone, and welcome to WAVES Magazine's All Island Candidate Q&A. I'm your host, Lauren Hall, along with Elise Harvey. And today we are joined by independent All Island candidate, Mr. Jermaine Fulford. Mr. Fulford, can you briefly tell our viewers who you are?
Hi, thanks for having me. As you stated, my name is Jermaine Fulford. I'll be running as an all-island independent candidate in the upcoming general election. I was born in the island of Grantock. My families are Fulfords, Librans, some Halls. I reside on the island of Providenciales. For a period of time, I worked in the hotel industry, moving on to cable and wireless for a number of years. And from there, I started my own business and I've been self-employed from 2003. I am married. I have 4 children, 4 boys. Well, technically 3, but one is my nephew. I call him my son. And so I say 4 boys, no girls. And that's mostly it. I don't know what more to say.
Awesome. Just to reiterate Lauren's sentiments, it's so great having you on the call today. We're so grateful that you joined us. So I'm gonna just go into our question section right now, and I'm gonna start off with a question about pensions. Yeah, what are your thoughts about pensions and the future of pensions in the Turks and Caicos?
Well, pensions overall or pensions on a particular sector?
I guess in regards to civil servants.
Okay.
Primarily.
No problem. Okay, civil servants pension. What I'm looking at is right now civil servants don't get a pension. They get paid through national insurance when they at the end of at 65. So what I want to do is bring a bill or a motion to the House to change that. So the change I'm looking for, some persons who work in government now, like I say, don't have anything. So if you work there for X amount of years, let's say you work 20 years, you have nothing to go home with besides you turning 65 and national insurance paying you. I'm looking to say, to budget that if you spend more than 3 years, you have a certain amount of money to go home with. For example, let's say you spend 5 years. Government's supposed to be able to say, okay, Lauren, you spent 5 years, here is $5,000. And we're starting you off at year 1 afterwards. So going into it, do a cross the board, who all been there for years. Someone been 20, someone been 15, someone been whatever. So 20 years, maybe you can't find the exact amount of money to pay them what they would have get if you was given a pension. But say to the people, say to yourself, okay, you was here for 20 years. Let government give you $20,000. And if they decide to keep you, if you come back, you have that $20,000 to start a job. You can start your own business, whatever the amount is. I just using 20,000 for example. So 20,000, you can say, well, hey, I can start the little job I always wanted. So civil servants will have something to fall back on. Not saying that when they retire, they only waiting on national insurance to give them what is entitled. So someone may be having 10 years. So let's say they get 10,000 and they say this 10,000 can help pay off my mortgage or help me start a little business that I always want to do. And government can say to them, okay, we paid you this 10,000, we paid you this flat rate money based on your years. So now you're starting over as year 1. So when you start over as year 1, now they're paying into the system for you. So when I say pay into the system, through organizations like national insurance, because everybody who works, somebody have to pay national insurance for, right?
Yeah.
So go into national insurance, create a department that collects pension on your part. Now this be it for civil servants or private sectors. So let's say you work in a private sector. After 3 years, the ordinance supposed to say you get paid pension for working to the place, not work all them years and have nothing to show for it. just your salary. That don't make sense. So make it law. Don't leave it in the hands of the employer to do it. Say to the employer, look, if Joanne Brown works with you for over 2 years, they entitled to 2 weeks pay pension. So what you do is on the 3rd year, National Insurance say to your employer, okay, Joanne Brown worked with you for 3 years. So now you have to pay 1 year's worth of pension, which is equivalent to 2 weeks pay. So you take that 2 weeks pay, let's say for instance, that 2 weeks pay is $1,000. You take that $1,000, you divide it by 12 because most people pay in every month. So you divide it by 12 or you divide it by 24 if you're paying in bi-weekly. So if that contribution comes up to, let's say $58, National Insurance now collects $58 extra for you based on your salary, because we're using $1,000 for example. So National Insurance collect $58 for you every month in addition to your NIS contributions. So every month, $58 goes in for you, $58 goes in for you. So now, when you're not working, in times like this, you're not working, National Insurance, you can say, well, National Insurance is going to see that you've been laid off because there's no contributions coming in for you. So they know you're laid off. You can go to National Insurance and say, well, I'm not working. As you notice, my employer has stopped paying contributions for me. So I need to recoup my pension so I can live off. So every month, National Insurance pays you, let's say $50, $8 can be for administration fees. So if you have that for 6 years, 7 years, 20 years, if you're not working, National Insurance can cut you a check every month for a certain amount of money based on what they was putting in for you. Now, it's not in your best interest to collect that money now because you won't collect that money when you get older. So if government now say that and make a law that we have this branch that collects, not saying that we're waiting on your employee to say, yes, he's been a good employee, let me pay him. You make a law that when you work past 3 years, it automatically get paid in. So when you're not working in times like this, the check could go straight to you. So there's less burden on the government. There's less burden on your friends. There's less burden on your neighbor to say, man, these guys ain't got nothing, I have to do a stimulus. The stimulus could be in National Insurance sitting down and waiting for you every month because you work the 20 years, the 10 years for it. So every month, because now National Insurance see where the employee was paying in every month for you, now they see you won't get that contributing to your number, so they know you're working. So that $50 extra or that $100, whatever the price may be, every month they cutting you that check until 4 or 5 years. So 6 months you sit down, you say, well, at least I could get minutes, at least I could get bread, at least I could get cream. You could get something coming in. So that applies straight across. That's how, the same way we collect on contributions through the 3% through National Insurance, we should be able to collect if you're not working, or collect from your employee if you're working. So when times get hard, you have something to fall back on. So that's one of the stuff that is on my to-do list once I get elected.
Okay. And this seems like a topic that you're quite passionate about.
Yeah.
Why?
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just wondering, why is this one of the main things that you're campaigning on?
Yeah, I have family in government. I have family in private sectors. And okay, for example, I know of a close person, relative to me. They worked for 20 years to a particular hotel. And after 20 years, they got a handshake and say, thank you. And that happens to a lot of people. So how can you dedicate 20 years to a establishment and you get a handshake to say, well, thank you? Not what do you have to show for that at the end of the day? The same thing in government. People take jobs in government at a time when salaries was low in government, because they knew at the end of their tender they would get this lump sum of money. That ain't there no more. So government now gotta up the price on civil servants' pay, or be able to do something like this. So when these persons decide that 50, 60, they reach 65, they reach their retirement age, they have something to fall back on. Because if you are government for X amount of dollars that barely making it, that what we'll say barely making ends meet, and you have mortgage, you have your children going to school, and you still have your daily life. Now when you reach 65, when national insurance paying you whatever they're paying you, how can you make it? You still have your water bill coming in every month. You still have your light bill every month. You still have some food bill every month. So the monies that is coming in cannot subsidize for your bills. So you need another form of steady income to come in. So now you're 65, you're 70. You don't have the strength and energy to go out there and work like you used to. So what is there to subsidize for these people? So when I see people work in government, and people call me and tell me this all the time, they work and they don't have nothing to show for it. And nobody is speaking out on that behalf.
Well, like Alik said, it is very evident from how you answered the question that you do have a very strong passion for it. And that makes perfect sense with it being one of your biggest points in your campaign. And along with that, we did note that in your campaign, you have mentioned support for entrepreneurship. And earlier, when you introduced yourself, you mentioned that you have been, you mentioned you have had your own business since 2003, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yes. So what are your plans in regards to supporting entrepreneurship and assisting those who want to go down a similar path?
Through government assistance programs, because there's a lot of people out there who are entrepreneurs, but they just don't know it. Because I look at a friend the other day, and he drives a particular type of vehicle for a company, a foreign company. I was like, why don't you do your own stuff? He's like, but how? And time I was telling him, do a business license and how to go about it. He's like, but nobody tells him these things. So my thing is, you'll have smart people, very smart people, and they're working for other people because nobody show them or say to them, you can own your own business. I always tell people, if I can do it, anybody can do it. Somebody might be good at art. If you're good at art, draw your paintings, do your art, sell it. You may not sell art today, but when you sell a painting, you sell a painting. You make enough. I'm sorry, somebody's trying to call, I'm sorry. You make enough that you probably go through another month or so. So don't think you can't do it. There's a cousin I have in Grand Turk, and he owns Cardo Williams. The Cardo Williams, right? He have a lot of goats in Grand Turk. And I think he works for someone. And I look at that as a gold mine. And people are like, how? The same goats he had, he can do. There's a lady in Italy. There's a small village. She has 100 and something goats. And what she does, she makes goat cheese. And she sells it to the entire village. And she let them buy it by bulk, and then they shipped it out. And not only making goat cheese, she turned around and used the droppings from the goat to make fertilizer. And then she did goat milk. So that's an avenue right there that maybe someone is not pointing out to him. But sometimes if you're not, it's easier for somebody to come from outside and show you than you coming, you actually seeing it yourself. Like I said, people drive all the time, but they just don't have the funds just to get a vehicle of their own or heavy duty equipment of their own. So things like that, you need to help people with or make it possible that they can get assistance to be an entrepreneur. Now I'm going to tell you one that you can be an entrepreneur, and it would be under the category of how diversifying the economy. Let's say, for example, if government, you can say government, if they introduce more, if government say to you, Lauren, you have your own property, or say to a tax seller, you have your property that you own. Government is going to, through TC Invest or Invest TC, whatever the name is, and however, hire contractors, because we have a lot of local contractors here. So we hire local contractors with a certain scheme, a basic blueprint of 4 walls. And they say to you, well, we will build, let the contractor build for you in your place, on your residence, this structure. Now, this structure will be used for Airbnb. So what you do now is you have to get a business license. And guys, why I say Lauren? Because I know Lauren a little bit, so it's easy for me to call on her name. So if government say, this structure now, for you to rent on Airbnb, people who want it. So they build it, you have to take out a business license. So when you take out a business license, government makes money from that. So if 100 people do this, government has 100 more business license now on the books. So that's revenue in government. So with COVID-19, a lot of people don't want to go to big resorts with a lot of people. So the small little Airbnb is going to make it more, because people want to be private. So we're being private now. Now government can say to you, or the regulator of these things can say to you, well, you have to have fire extinguisher, you have to have a fire alarm, you have to have burglar alarm. So you do a standard straight across the board. So when you do the standard, I may come and say to you, and hey, guess what? I used to do landscaping. Somebody else may say they used to do housekeeping. So this opened up another avenue for whoever could do landscaping, who worked for the landscaping company. This could open up more people for car rental, because they may say they want to rent car. I may say, well, I have an app that I can do shopping. So I can shop for your guests who's coming in. Somebody may say they do catering. All them type of things you can push for entrepreneurship. Now that same, instead of now the country on a whole sitting down and waiting for 1 or 2 tourist industries to pay money so the economy can keep going every 2 weeks, when somebody book your place or my place or the 100 places that we now have in stock, that money now you have directly in your hand right away, because when they book, you get that money on your account. So now you have that money. That money now can circulate in the economy. So when that money circulating, the landscaper now has money. He ain't got to wait. The maid has money. The plumber has money. The person who is servicing your appliances has money. So the car rental has money. You could even put in that same negotiation whereby somebody renting your house, and let's say you're close to the beach, and you say, well, look, jet ski is involved in the package, or lawn chairs, beach chairs are involved, and you can go to persons who have the lawn chairs or the beach chairs and the jet ski and say, when my guests come, they will give you this voucher, and with this voucher you can let them ride and I'll pay you. You bring the voucher to me, and all of that makes it easier, instead of everybody congregating just to the hotel and only the hotel making it. I don't know if it makes sense to you, but
no, it does make sense, especially considering, like you say, you want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to grow into being an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. I would say, though, your passion for it, right? And I know Alik asked a similar question, but do you think that your experiences as an entrepreneur has an impact on the way you view how you would want to support entrepreneurs?
Well, entrepreneurs, it's a wide topic. So my views are only from what I learned. So, and in the area I learned it in. So even let's say somebody who is an accountant, their views or what I am suggesting may not fit them. Because or you want to be a medical professor or in that field. What I'm talking, it might not fit for that particular field. So to each his own on that one.
All right. Fair enough.
Do you have any plans in particular in terms of education if you were to be elected as a minister of government?
Education. Okay. Through education, most time when persons finish here, school here, most time they hear the same thing. You're not qualified, or you're not having enough experience. So how come places in Asia, people could come out of school younger and be qualified and be experienced? The curriculum here, it tends to think children are lazy. When I say lazy, they do certain amount of stuff. How come a Chinese or Indian child could do coding at 12, coding for apps on phones at 8, 9 years old? So how come we can't do that here? I think the curriculum here could pick up a little bit more, and with this pandemic, what it should, in my view, what it should do is you should do more webinars. You know what I mean when I say webinars? Okay, a webinar. So let's say you are a grade 1 teacher, you are a grade 2 teacher, you are somebody else is a grade 2 teacher. So do a webinar. And with the webinar, parents can sign up for the webinar for their child. So they say to the education department, I have a child who is 7, for example. Okay, that means you will be in this webinar section. So in that webinar section, they give you the username and the password for that webinar section. Now, with the webinar, it do not to have to worry about the time of the date or the date, because you could be a parent, have to go to work, and you can't work with your child. So with a webinar session, you can come home at 6 o'clock and sit down with your child at 7 o'clock and do them things. You can say whenever things get back to normal, you can say, instead of finishing school at 16, 17, and then the child has to turn around and sign up to go to the community college, why not just bring the community college straight into the school? To say, well, you finish school at fifth form. You no longer finish at fifth form. Sorry for that, man. I ignore they call, but it knocked me off. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right. So after you finish high school at 15 or 17, whatever the things, and now they tell you have to go to community college. So why not introduce the course straight into the community college? Sorry, into the school.
Mm-hmm.
Why not say we have, instead of we having form up to form 5, why we don't have up to form 6? And during form 6, why don't we have the lecturers from some of the community college just come and teach us at the school? That would make it easier. So now when you come out, you don't come out with what they come out with now, CXC or GCE.
Yeah.
So you come out with some kind of diploma.
Mm-hmm.
So it is easier to go on a job with that, instead of somebody say, well, I only finished high school and that's it. So if you come out with a diploma, the workplace have a harder time to say you're not qualified. And those who don't want to finish it there, we have, what they call it, oh Lord, whatever skills, what they call it, whatever skill school they can go to. While instead of fifth form, you finish. So you say, well, okay, we have this trade school that you're gonna finish the trade school within a year. So now when you come out and you say, well, I want to do some trade work, somebody look at you and say, well, oh, you don't have no skills in being a carpenter or mason or a plumber or whatever. Hey, no. Our school gave us that in depth for a year or 2 years. So yes, I have some kind of entrepreneurship into it.
Yeah. Yeah. I was wondering, what do you think that the government can do to support students that may feel incapable or maybe falling behind in school, and help them to get back on track and kind of figure out?
I don't think no student falls behind in school. I think you have to find a student's strength.
Yeah.
Not all students want to be doctors. Not all students want to be lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
But when you only have school for you praise the ones who excel in business or the ones who excel in whatever area, that's wrong, because you might excel in that area, but I may excel in another area easier than you. So what government should do is, you got to do an assessment of the students overall. You can't say, oh, everybody got to do biology or chemistry. Some people don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So you got to find out what that person want to do. And you got to tailor some of the curriculum around what they want. Now, maybe the tailoring around what you want to do is not in the government's budget, but is it right that they just leave you out because you don't want to do business or you don't want to do science? But most people do business and science, and only thing they can hear is, oh, you got to go to the hotel, work to be a waiter or be a front desk clerk or something. You don't want to go to school from age of 5 to 17, 18 to just work in a hotel. That don't make sense. And you're working in a hotel, but if that's the only thing for you to work, why aren't that the only subjects teaching in school? That's the only industry they striving on. But they won't tell you you could be whatever you could be, you want to be. You could be this, you could be that, but they're not giving you the opportunities to be.
Yeah. And in regards to children who may need may have special requirements, special needs students, how do you think the government could support people in that area?
With special needs, schooling, or lifestyle?
It's up to you. You can talk about it.
I know of one school, or one person who have a special needs school, and if it wasn't for the private sector, they would be closed down a long time. Special needs children are just as good or is not better than anybody else. They are someone that loves loving. They are. I don't like to call nobody special. I don't want to say special. They just. To me, they're. I know of this boy who goes to the school. He's blind. He's about 6'7". He's totally blind. And the things I see the boy doing, I don't know how he could do it. And he have no sight. So if government would be able to say, have specialists, even send people out for training. There's always somebody who want to go for training somewhere. You may not be working. And if government say, hey, we'll train you in this field and we'll pay you this rate, you're going to say no if the rate is good. It's livable rate. So if government have special needs people in the community, when I say not just bringing people in, because if your child got special needs and I's your neighbor, I can look out for your child way more. I'm not saying the other person ain't gonna look out, but it is a difference when you have people who nurturing you growing up next door to you. It is more like, it's like your family. So you look out for each other more, because somebody else who you bring in, they only want to do one thing: quick money. Once they get the money, they ain't care if your child. I shouldn't say they ain't care. Some of them may not care if your child progress or not. But if government would say, hey, let's pump money into one or two people who ain't got no job, and we send them off to school, or we bring a special needs person in and they train you, and you do webinars and you do courses on it, then you become a special need teacher. But nothing happens without money. So unless they start pumping money into some of these areas, we will always see that. Just like young children.
Mm-hmm.
You see all the violence and stuff going on, they blaming young children. Young children have really no outlet. You remember when they said a basketball, the gym open? And they said the teams playing every night or every other night? And down their pack? You know why down their pack? You know why at the end of the day, them guys, they playing ball. They're taking their frustration out on the court. So when time to go home, they tired. They already laugh at you in the court and play ball with you in the court. What they want to fight for?
Yeah.
The more social stuff you put out there for the children, the more they engage. So it is no longer this area versus that area. You want this area versus that area? Put a team together. I can see you on the court. And people used to ask me, why do you ref games all the time and damn guys making noise? The reason I used to ref games all the time is the more I ref, the more they ain't out there running, jumping, shooting, whatever.
Yeah.
And sometimes it don't be them doing it. It just be them at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
So if they're playing ball or if they're watching ball, they ain't out getting trouble. So the more they in there, the better for me. The better for the community.
Now, you were talking about certain things that government needs to do, and especially pumping money into certain areas. And from what we have learned from researching your campaign, one of the areas that you are in support of is e-government, which has been a hot topic around regarding how we can switch over to that. What are your plans for e-government as you support it, or is it something where you might be on the fence about at the moment?
E-government can work, but it is the problem with e-government is persons don't trust online stuff. When I say persons don't trust, as simple as paying a bill online, some people, they believe if they don't have that physical receipt in their hand. Some people don't believe in a bank card to take their money because somebody may thief it. So this is the problem for e-government, for government to assure, or the industry to assure them people that their information is safe. So e-government can go a long way if policed right. For example, look at COVID now. If you had more e-government in place, there's less need for manpower. And now, don't get me wrong, it's not that you are eliminating people from work. You can now do the same amount of work with less people at the time in the office. So, and e-government is unbiased. So if I need a document and you need a document, it ain't gonna be like, oh, that's Lauren, so she can get a document before Jermaine. E-government looks at what is the criteria. She meets the criteria, he meets the criteria, they get it. Except for an individual who might say, well, I don't like Lauren anyhow, so the application get lost. So it's how it's getting the people into it, because I know the minister of natural in I can't remember the name of the place now. It's Estonia.
Estonia?
Yeah. I met him when I think it's still the minister, probably not. Met him when I was in Thailand. And for the stuff they do, e-government is so simple that even like now, you think about it, and it goes right back to people with special needs and e-government. Now, you want a document. So I want a police record. So I have to go to the post office to buy the stamp. I have to go get the document, although it's online now. I have to turn around, take the document. I have to turn around, take the receipt, go to Treasury. I have to turn around, come back from Treasury when they're ready to go get it. It's like ridiculous. So, why not have it? You have the document online. The system process it. Whoever vets it to make sure it's right, legal, and you pick it up. Why do I have to go to the post office to buy a $10 stamp? add the $10 stamp into my bill, and then reconcile and say for everyone that comes in, we owe the post office $10 times whatever. That eliminate. And then people with special needs now, who probably in a wheelchair, got to be up and down, up and down, up and down. So I have to bring the form. I have to bring the $10 stamp. I can't submit it online. I have to wait. I have to come back. All of that e-government eliminates all the, look at all the people on the outside of the treasury at the end of the day. Why not, we looking at the treasury and look at return, people coming in to the airport. Look at the long lines. Why not have kiosks there waiting? You punch in what you come for. You scan your document. It takes the payment. It can work. How come it could work for Digicel, who takes payment like that? How come it could work for Flow, who takes payment like that, but it is not working for government? Do that make sense? Do that make sense, Lori?
That is a good question to pose, and I hope our audience will be putting their responses below for that.
Now we look at returning to. You can start with returning residents. Persons coming in, returning residents. Start with them first, because once you return, everybody know who you are. You don't got nowhere to go if in case something go wrong during the initial setup. So as you come in, instead of you writing all this paperwork up, scan your passport. Use the touch screen, because they say COVID lives on paper now. Instead of having all this paper, touch the screen, and the screen tells you if to proceed or not. If you can't proceed, whatever, then you see one of the immigration officers. There's too much paperwork involved these days when everything is online. There is too much paperwork. People don't want, like, if you take a picture with your cell phone or your ID, they don't believe you. You got to bring the actual one. It's like the immigration told me, bring a copy of my passport. I brought the copy of the passport, okay. They said, oh, it got to be notarized. It's like, why? I'm bringing you, the immigration officer or border control, a copy of my passport that you gave to me, okay? Only one spot I can get a legal passport from. So when I give that, they say, no, you got to get it notarized. It's like, why? To say that's you, to prove it's right. How can Mr. Bill Clear or whoever else who have to notarize or verify that it is legal or it's me, how can he know a genuine copy more than the man who gave it to me? Do that make sense? So I have to go to somebody to verify that this is a true and genuine copy. Yeah, now they take it to the office. But think about it now, that's still paper. Now, we're talking about paper, whereby government buying paper locally, when there's a tariff on paper. So instead of you bring your own paper in and you have a department for stores that you distribute in paper, yes, it's helping some local business, but then it's putting a strain on government, because now government have to buy the paper from a store that they just charge 37% duties on, and the store is going to make a markup. So why not have a store in government that you can requisition paper from? You just got to have people accountable to say you're not giving government paper away to your friends and your family.
Yeah.
You just need accountability. You go for a birth certificate. You have to wait for one person or two persons to be there to get a birth certificate. Why not deputize the clerk to say, we deputize you and everything is online. So when I deputize you, that you pick up my ID and you see that, yes, I am who I say I am, or I am the parent of who I come for, and you step and sign it right there and then. Why do I have to go through you, go to this way, come back? Oh, such and such ain't signed off yet. That don't make no sense. So all these things, e-government will play a role in. So when you when you go and apply, it's there. The information get vetted, and the clerk can just simply sign off. Because before the clerk sign off, the system already produced the document for the clerk to sign off on.
Yes.
So there's no more, oh, let me wait for somebody to come. And once the system produces it, that means it's valid.
Mm-hmm.
The person who want to sign, who they're waiting on to sign off, they could be in the background just approving it that yes, this is good, let it go through.
Okay, yeah. Well, definitely is a lot to take in regarding e-government. It is a very big topic, of course. And there's so many areas within the country where, like you say, we are having to deal with people face to face and having multiple processes to get to a certain extent. So that is understandable.
Not even that. Look at other islands. Look at the family islands. You would have somebody got to come from North Caicos or Middle Caicos. They have to drive, catch a ferry, catch a ride down the road, and a document may not be ready right there and then. They have to come back.
Very true. Very true. They have to go through an even longer process than the people
Correct.
who are right here with the island.
Right.
Within Providence, yeah, at least.
You know, I think it's fair to say that change takes time, and it's kind of difficult because some people like change, some people don't like change. And I think that kind of links to what I want to talk about next in terms of culture. I think as time changes, we kind of leave certain things, certain elements of our culture get lost in time, or they're not as preserved or as valued. How do you think that we can revive or preserve the culture that we have in the Turks and Caicos?
Culture. Culture is what, to be called, I wouldn't call it culture. I would call it more history or something, because culture is what you do now. So your culture is what is today's mandate. So if today's mandate is everybody wearing dreads, that's the culture of today. So, but historically, to go back, I think first if you're saying culture, we need to identify persons like yourself. My phone keep going off. Persons like yourself who doing this, and who pushing this out. So you need to. The same thing I tell you within the schools. Not everybody want to be a doctor or a lawyer. Somebody want to dance.
Yeah.
So or do art. So you take them people, you find them creative people, you put on talent shows, and you make an outlet for them to display their culture. Not everybody want to say, well, they want to do art, but there's no outlet for it. So if you have an art gallery that local people can put art in, if you have let's say every quarter of the year, you have a cultural how they do a fish fry. I don't think fish fry is culture. I think fish fry is people who try to make money because the business is slow and that's where to get the tourists. Some parts of it are culture, but like some of the food, if I had something to do with it, a lot of the type of food shouldn't be sold out there because it's not our culture. Unless our culture is evolving into another country's culture. So some people's like, oh, jock chicken or curry goat and stuff. That's not the culture of Turks and Caicos. But so be it. But at the end of the day, you need to identify people with what you would call, let's say true, if you use Robert Johnson, who was singing, do stuff. Whoever else, Marion Library, Jack and all them, who Alroy, Simmons, Keno and Cass. Use them for your culture. And my phone died. Use them for your culture. Have an outlet for them that when tourists come, that this is a culture studio, and this is even down to straw markets. People doing bags, doing fans, doing hats. So you have a central culture market. You have certain times of the year that you can say, well, These guys are going to perform every January 1st, every September 3rd. So you know something to go look forward to. You can have talent competitions. You can have but you have to now pump money into it, and you have to say, well, this we're gonna have to advertise it. So when you advertise it, it could be through the media, that when persons come, hey, we know that these guys will have this culture show on this date. You have something to look forward to, because a lot of tourists come down and they say, well, what is here to do? What is the culture? And nobody knows, because everybody only thinks about the fast life in Grace Bay. And then when you take them to the Bite and to Q-Town and to Five Keys, and they take them on a trip to North Caicos and Middle Caicos and Grand Tuck to the, it's like, oh, this is totally different. I thought only Grace Bay. No, we have more culture to offer, but unfortunately, it's Grace Bay that's selling their product, so they want to keep that rate in Grace Bay. Instead of, when you market it, the beach and stuff, there's beaches outside of Grace Bay. There's Grand Tuck, and there's Salt Key, and there's South Caicos, and there's Strawmore Market and thing, and there's caves in Middle Caicos. And I take people on there, and they were so amazed that it's like, if I'm coming back to Turks and Caicos, I'd rather live in Northern Middle Caicos on my vacation, that I can enjoy this more than just live in a hotel, because what they sing there, they can get that in Cayman or Aruba, anywhere else. So they want something different. So the culture has to shift. So when the culture shifts, not only we have to employ people who know the culture, because as God is my witness, there's a tourist asked a gentleman, where's the tourist department? In Grace Bay. The guy was a foreign person who walked in here. He was like, I don't know. He called me, he's like, where's the tourist department? You should not be able to be a Turks and Caicos and don't know the tourist department. You should not be a Turks and Caicos walking if you don't know who's James McCartney. That's my belief. Simple things like that you should know. There should be a criteria for you to get to be a Turks and Caicos Islander. And one of the criteria is that you got to know what is the capital. Some people don't know. So all that's supposed, before we say our culture, we need to have people who know these things. Because if we don't, our culture is we're going to just start drifting away from what is our culture. We're going to drift away from the straw market, or the Wade's grain plantation, or the fish fry. And there's no longer fish fry. There's going to be a jerk chicken or curry goat all the time. You understand what I'm saying, right? Mm-hmm. So, but our culture depends on how much government willing to put into our culture. Our culture should be, you in the mornings, there's a national song. Our culture should be, at the end of the day, the flag is being risen, something like that. Our culture should be that, like I say, you know who's at least the first chief minister. We got to know who's the capital, how many islands are to make up the chain of islands. We have to know something. We should know about the salt ponds, because that is part of our culture. But a lot of people who you ask, they have no idea. And sometimes I'd be so embarrassed it's hard to interject when people conversation when they're talking, and when I hear people giving tourists the wrong information, I was like, oh my God. But it looked bad. You like stopping. Sometimes I'll be like, no, don't do that, do the other. Or after the person going, then I'll try and correct what they said by making it like, yeah, that was, but now this is. Things like that.
Yeah. Just very briefly, how do you think that we can bring back culture in the Turks and Caicos? Just to build on mentioned before.
How we can bring back culture.
Yeah.
Start having more cultural events. You have to have more cultural events. You have to say, I remember growing up, they said donkey race, horse race, platinum maypole stuff. Mm-hmm. All the people would bake their type of goodies. You will have local bands playing music and giving prizes for it, cash prizes for it. You will have costume competition. I used to be in Boy Scouts, and when they got, I can't remember which time it was, but you have to design your own costumes and you have to participate in it. Now, I'm not the deal, but I was happy to be in it. As a Boy Scout, I was happy to be in it. So we need to bring them things back, like how you got V-Funk, right? So I think V-Funk, yeah, that's good, but there's more like a Junkanoo. Junkanoo more originate from the Bahamas and stuff. So, but that's going that same direction. So why only have one V-Funk?
Yeah.
Why you can't have a culture band and I have one and we're doing it at a different hotel?
Yeah.
So you could have yours named whatever and you are participating at Club Med and V-Funk is participating at beaches and Lauren Owen is participating at downtown somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So you incentivize people to be a part of these groups because people ain't want to just be a part of it to do what? I ain't got nothing to deal. But if you say, well, the groups say, well, every member will get, I don't know, scholarship or get free minutes or whatever. People may be more happy to join. But because I just joined because you want me to join, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
Yes, and I see where you're coming from regarding culture because, like you said, there are areas where we aren't looking at anymore, such as Maypole and selling goodies in certain ways. But to swing the conversation around to the government yet again and to the current government and how you might do things differently, we've seen quite a bit of criticism regarding how the financial relief that they gave out went. And we want to know, where do you stand on that topic? And is there anything that you would have done differently to the current government when it came to financial relief during the pandemic?
I guess because I had a little more time to think about it. So I think the government, they did what they knew best. But what I believe should have happened, the stimulus, you said stimulus, right?
I said financial relief, but you can take that however you please.
Okay, I believe you're talking about the stimulus financial relief. I believe that the powers to be should have gone down the voters list first. Sorry. The powers to be should have gone down the voters list. And you go from the voters list. So when you take from the voters list, that is your Tax Island people. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying other people are entitled. But what I'm saying is, if you're from this country, you live this country, you have no other country to go to. You can't get back in from no other country. I think you should be first on the list, the Tax Island people. So me personally, I would have gone down the list and I would have said Lauren Hall, Harvey, all right, whatever. Okay, I would have gone right down the list and I would have picked names out who's on the list. I would have made sure they get financial assistance first. Once they get financial assistance first, now, if persons who not on the list, the main thing is when they came here to work, the employer is responsible for them. Now, if the employer can't help them, then they can apply for financial help through the employer. So you give the employer the funds because the employer is the one who's responsible. So I say you shouldn't, but in my view, now if the employer said, government, I brought in, I have 10 people, 100 people, but as you know, there's nothing happening, and I have 100 people that I need to take care of. Government could now say, okay, my group of people, which is this list, criteria has already been met for a month or two. Let me see now. You got 100 people and you got 300. Let me see now. Now, I can help out of that 300, I can help 250. Now, take that 250. Now, that 250 might still can help the whole 300. Instead of them saying the 250 get everything, just divide the amount amongst the 300. But my view is I would have gone down the voters list first.
Mm.
And after I finished the voters list, then I would have said to who's the employer, hey, you say you have all these people who need help. Now, government can give you this amount, and you can divide it amongst your people, because they took out a contract to make sure that these people they can sustain them.
Yeah.
They can pay their way back home. So when things was getting rough, they know things was getting rough. They should have said, okay, we can't sustain you. We're going to give you the severance pay right now. Go back home, and when things pick up, then you can come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'd be less burden on the country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mr. Fulford, in regards to what you said about the people on the voters list receiving first, and in regards to the employers, does what you said about the employers, does that cover only work permit holders, or does that also touch on people who may not be on the voters list or be registered voters but are Turks and Caicos Islanders?
Well, if you're Turks and Caicos Island, you're most likely you can. Well, if you're not Turks and Caicos Island, you can prove that you are by going to whatever department they deem necessary at that time, or through the same portal that they implemented. So you can say to the powers to be in the portal, or whatever, whenever the same way they went through it, say, okay, I am not on the list, but I'm a Turks and Caicos Islander. The amount of paperwork will be less, because they already have the same amount of all the paperwork from the voters list. The voters list would eliminate all the paperwork. So people who is not on the voters list would have been able to get through quickly, because it would have been a small amount.
Yeah.
It would have been a very small amount to vet.
Yeah.
So then you would have known if you are entitled or not entitled. And with the second stimulus they was given, I heard they was asking for a reference number.
Mm-hmm.
But ask yourself a question. Who gave the stimulus?
Yeah.
Who gave the stimulus?
Yeah.
So isn't a reference number on there? So if they give you a stimulus and they know the reference number, but why not? Why put a person through getting a reference number when they could have make your reference number your phone number or your date of birth? Yeah. So when they call and say, what is your reference number? Sorry, I don't remember. I don't know. Okay, what is your date of birth? Oh, good. So they can take your date of birth or your mommy's date of birth, or your date of birth and your initials. So that would be your reference number. There's a lot of stuff they could have done to make the process easier, in my point of view.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think everybody look at stuff how I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So they give you the financial relief, but to get the financial relief is the problem. It is too tedious.
And you have definitely tackled the topics that we have given you and have been able to speak at length about each of them. So with this question I'm going to ask you, it is one that I wonder what you will say, but when it comes down to it, if you were to be elected and the decision was made to make you a minister of a certain ministry, which ministry would you choose to be the minister of, and what do you feel makes you qualified to be that minister?
Lauren, you put me on the spot. Jeez, I never thought of that.
Well, it's great that we asked you.
Lauren, why you do this to me? So, if I was to be a minister, what ministry would I want? And what's the second part?
And what do you think makes you qualified to be the minister of that ministry?
Boy, Lauren, Jesus. Okay, let's see what ministries are there. Ministry of Communication.
Okay.
Now, reason I would take in communication, because I know communication. When I say I know communication, I know communication. I can't speak on what I know, but I know it, right? And in today's world, that helps form a government. In today's world, everything is online. So yeah, I'll say communication.
Well, communication also branches forward to be home affairs as well, if I'm not mistaken. So in that regard, what do you think makes you qualify with home affairs and transportation?
Well, home affairs deals with little documents here and there. Lauren, put me on the spot. Lauren, I can't speak on all of them. The question is, although I might not be qualified to be a minister, have the expertise in all the fields, but you got to remember, I have expertise in some fields, and the fields that I don't have it in, don't we have directors? Don't we have PS? Don't we have undersects? So aren't they going to be there to guide me?
This is true.
I will know some stuff about other ministries. Say, for example, let's say we talk about, let's say if I did choose finance, I want to be minister of finance, right? Let's say that. In college, I did finance, accounting and stuff. But I have a wife who's a financial controller. Let's say if we talk about tourism, I can lean on her because she has a doctorate in hotel management. So there's always somebody I can lean on to say, hey, as the Minister of Tourism, what do you think is best to do in this situation? As the Minister of Finance, what do you see if we put this forward? I have a brother who is an economist, so I can always pull on ideas from him and say, as an economist, how can we make this stimulate more? How can we pull funds from this to get these things working? So yes, they are not the minister, but nobody knows it all. Nobody have all the answers. So when you reach out to different people, you get to have a wider view of things. So even let's say ministerial agriculture. My good friend Courtney, he knows about agriculture. So I could reach out and say, Courtney, now how we could introduce these type of plants, or what you think if we do this? So you always have somebody you can reach out to. If they make me a minister of sports, I have my cousin Judith I can reach out to. So it don't make a difference if I can, what makes me, you say qualified? Qualified. Yeah, but why I'm reaching out to one or two of them to get feedback, because that's what people need, feedback. Because the more feedback and the more, because my views, even though I may be qualified in the area, it might not be the best fit for what the country want to do. So while I'm getting feedback and more understanding from someone, at the same time I'm learning about it, and I'm online school or something like that. So while I'm home in the night, I'm doing online classes and making sure, oh, okay, this is the repercussions if I did do that. You understand?
Yes.
So
teamwork.
It don't make a difference which ministry, but I would say communication. But if it's sports, it's sports. If it's tourism, it's tourism. Because in some area, I have persons I can lean on. And I always believe one thing about myself. I can do anything once my mind put to it. Anything I can do. Once I put my mind to it, I accomplish whatever goal I set out to do.
Mr. Fulford, I do want you to know that it was not in any way, shape, or form a trick question. If you feel like I was getting left field.
No. It's cool, my friend. It's cool.
For that answer, because definitely it has opened up a whole section of things where, in regards to no one knows everything in a ministry, and no one minister will know every single thing. So
That's why
being able
that's
to be
why some
open to
problems that's why some problems happen now.
opinions are those of the own person. So yes, indeed, whatever you think is the case, but nonetheless,
Yeah.
like you said, people do have to
Things
reach out to others to get
things
guidance on
the only
situations.
thing the only thing that's constant is change, and things keep changing. So we cannot keep the old, this is the way we do it in the ministry. Well, Jesus, technically it ain't been walking all these years, so something got to be wrong. So maybe me not knowing something in a ministry is a good thing,
Perhaps.
because if you keep doing the same thing, you keep getting the same result. So with a new face coming into a ministry, you'll be like, well, we don't do it this way, but yeah, I see it walking your way.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I like your show. I like this show.
Thank you.
Mr. Fulford, in speaking of knowing, you're gonna wonder why we want to know the answer to this question, because it's completely and absolutely atrocious. So the question is, would you rather eat conch salad with peanut butter in it, or condensed milk, aka sweet milk or sweet cream?
If I rather eat conch salad with peanut butter in it or condensed milk,
Yeah.
conch salad with peanut butter.
Why?
Because I like conch salad and I like peanut butter.
Makes sense. Can't.
Sometimes the answer is just is simple.
Cannot argue with that at all. No.
I love conch salad. I'm a vegetarian, so that's good.
Yeah. Oh.
And
yeah.
I don't care too much about dairy, so I don't care too much about condensed milk.
Okay. Well, actually, are you vegetarian or are you pescatarian? Because on technicalities, conch,
Pescatarian.
I was about to say, conch doesn't fall in the vegetarian
All right,
section.
pescatarian. Yes, pescatarian. Who came up with that question?
The WAVES team of geniuses. We
How
love
come that
people-
question, though? How come that question?
just something to make you think.
We have like a
That wasn't hard for me.
Clearly not. This might have been something you've thought about before.
No, I mean, based on me being pescatarian, I don't care too much about dairy. So
Fair enough. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being so willing to come on with us and express your views, help our viewers to know exactly what it is that you're all about as you go forward in your political endeavors. Also, thank you so much for being willing to answer such a strange question, or as Alik put it, atrocious. So to our audience, thank you so much for watching. We hope that you continue to check out WAVES for new content that we put out for you guys. And stay tuned for whatever is next. And keep riding this wave. Bye now.
Bye.
Yeah, me need more time for the greatness. Me not give a damn fly back, no idiot. Me my riches like now, heard a good die young. Pray to God me ain't part of the sequel, la 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 la. Tell me how we have the right to life when they killing us.